There's virtually no Barbadian who's not enthralled by its bold and infectious dance movements. As a public spectacle, the Barbados Landship is almost unsurpassed, commanding a captive crowd of spectators whenever its engine strikes up. It's easy to see this Barbadian cultural institution as a mere provider of public comedy. But those who've delved beyond the surface into the nature and history of this organization paint a far more serious picture. One such person is Marcia Burrows, a cultural scholar with the University of the West Indies. She holds to the view that the Landship masquerade has a far greater significance than meets the eye of the casual observer.
Yes, it has been argued they are British uniforms, but they certainly did not look so. By the time the different Landship members attached several plumes, lots of gold and green and yellow ropes, they used to laugh at and say, oh, they don't look like the British Navy. That's the point. They didn't look like the British Navy. And once they started to dance what they call their naval maneuvers, certainly they were not being the British Navy because no Navy dances. So if we're seeing culture as something which is creolized, which is a combination and it evolves and it grows, you've got your uniforms, and we in a sense have been taught to see them as mimicking black people, black working class and poor, mimicking white British culture. I'm saying no. I'm saying if we see the uniform as a cloak, that then they can do their dances, do their marchings from before, keep their susu and do all those things, then we get another analysis or another reading of this thing that we know now as the Landship.
Tracing the origins of the Landship takes us to the 1860s and one Moses Wood, a Barbadian who served in the British Navy and lived in Wales and England. The story goes that on returning home, he organized a society for purposes of mutual aid and to reproduce the camaraderie and discipline of naval life. Landship researcher Aviston Downs mentions 1863 and 1868 as the years when this might have happened. Downs says there is no documented evidence that the movement began in either of those years, but he spoke of documented evidence of the ship's existence from the 1890s. And according to Downs, notwithstanding the distinctive Barbadian characteristics of the local ship, the practice of parading in military gear was not unique to Barbados at the time.
The Landship is bigger than Barbados. In terms of how we conceptualize the Landship, it has been seen as something unique to Barbados, peculiar to Barbados. I've contended that in fact you need to look at the whole expression of maritime culture across the Black Atlantic, bearing in mind that from the 18th century, blacks were very prominent as members of ships' crews in the British Navy. Significantly so. And that in terms of spreading culture and ideology from South Africa, West Africa, North America, Caribbean, that you have the influence of seamen. So it's not surprising to me that you have an oral tradition that suggests that this man lived at Cardiff and Southampton, within port cities in Britain, where in fact there would have been local communities of sailors of all shades, and from the white black diaspora, the crewmen, Caribbean blacks, British soldiers, British sailors,
Poor whites too.
Poor whites, of course, and therefore in that context, you're having a kind of hybridization that's taking place beyond the insular context of Barbados.